The menu looks a little blurrier than it used to. You tilt it toward the candle on the table, or you pull out your phone and use the flashlight, telling yourself it's just the lighting in the restaurant. A few nights later, driving home after dark, the headlights behind you feel sharper than they used to, almost uncomfortable to look at. And maybe the most familiar moment of all, walking from bright sunlight into your own living room, and for a few seconds, everything looks dim, like the room hasn't caught up with you yet. None of that is your imagination. You're not alone in noticing it, and it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It's simply what tends to happen to eyes that have been working faithfully for 6 or 7 decades. I'm Dr. Robert Vance, and I want to walk you through 7 fruits that may offer real, meaningful support for your eyes as you get older. Some of them will be familiar, a couple you've probably never thought to put in your cart. And the last one tends to surprise people, not because it's rare or expensive, but because almost nobody associates it with eye health at all, even though the reasoning behind it holds up well once you hear it. Let me be upfront about something first, because it matters more than anything else in this video. Food doesn't cure cataracts. It doesn't reverse macular degeneration or restore vision that's already been lost, and it won't replace your ophthalmologist or whatever treatment plan your doctor has already put you on. What good nutrition can do is support your eyes the same gradual, quiet way it supports the rest of your body. That's the honest promise here, and I'd rather give you something true than something exciting but false. One more thing before we move forward. If you ever notice a sudden change in your vision, sudden blurriness, new floaters, flashes of light, or a shadow moving across part of your sight, that's not a wait-and-see situation. Call your doctor, and if it's severe, go to an emergency room. Now, why does food even enter this conversation in the first place? Your eyes work harder than most people realize, processing an enormous stream of light and information every second you're awake, using cells that don't regenerate the way skin or gut lining does. At the back of the eye sits the retina, a thin layer of light-sensing tissue, and at its center is the macula, responsible for your sharp central vision, the kind you rely on to read fine print or recognize a face across a room. Peripheral vision tells you something is there. The macula tells you what it is. All that constant activity produces oxidative stress, essentially ordinary cellular wear and tear. Every part of your body generates some of this just by functioning, and every part has systems built to clean it up before it accumulates. As we age, that cleanup process slows slightly, right as decades of light exposure have already put some strain on the eye. More wear, a little less repair. That combination explains a good deal of why age-related eye changes tend to surface later in life. This is where fruit becomes relevant. And I want to be careful with the framing, because this is exactly where a lot of online content overreaches. Certain nutrients found in fruit, specific antioxidants and plant pigments, appear to support the eye's own natural defenses. Support them, not replace them. Lutein and zeaxanthin, 2 plant pigments, concentrate directly inside the macula, which is why researchers pay close attention to them. Vitamin C matters too, both as a general antioxidant because the fluid and lens of the eye maintain a higher concentration of it than most other tissues. Anthocyanins, the deep purple and red pigments in certain berries, have drawn interest for broader antioxidant and circulatory support. I want to be honest about something. Some of what follows has strong specific evidence tied directly to eye tissue. Other parts are more general, connected to overall antioxidant intake or cardiovascular health, which still matters, since good blood flow benefits every organ, but that's a different category of evidence than a nutrient sitting inside the macula itself. I'll tell you fruit by fruit which category applies. Kiwi rarely comes up in eye health conversations, and that's a shame. Ounce for ounce, it's one of the richer sources of vitamin C available, often surpassing an orange of similar size. Given vitamin C's concentration inside the eye, that alone earns kiwi a place here. It does contain some carotenoids, but it isn't considered a major source of lutein or zeaxanthin, so claims positioning it as a top macular health food overstate the evidence. What kiwi genuinely offers is strong general antioxidant support and an easy way to raise your vitamin C intake without a supplement bottle. A practical note that matters more than people expect, especially once arthritis becomes part of daily life. You can slice a kiwi in half and eat it straight from the skin with a spoon. Watermelon works for a different reason entirely. It's roughly 90% water, and people tend to dismiss it for that reason, as if being mostly water means it isn't doing much. But hydration plays a quieter role in eye comfort than most realize. As we age, our sense of thirst becomes less reliable, and even mild dehydration can show up as dry, gritty, tired eyes. Watermelon won't treat a diagnosed dry eye condition, and persistent dry eye deserves an ophthalmologist's attention, not fruit. But as an easy way to support daily hydration, particularly in warmer months, it earns its spot. Watermelon is also a rich source of lycopene, a red pigment studied for broader antioxidant and cardiovascular benefits, though its connection to eye tissue specifically is less direct than lutein or zeaxanthin. One practical note for anyone managing blood sugar: watermelon has a fairly high glycemic index despite its modest total sugar content, so a cup paired with a small handful of nuts tends to work better than a large bowl on its own. Black currants aren't something most Americans grew up eating, largely due to old agricultural restrictions that limited how widely they were grown domestically for decades. That's changed, and you can now find them fresh, frozen, dried, or as juice concentrate. What makes them worth attention is a genuinely striking vitamin C content, often exceeding kiwi or citrus, alongside a dense concentration of anthocyanins. Research, much of it from Japan and New Zealand, where black currants are more culturally established, has looked at anthocyanins in relation to visual fatigue from extended screen use and to circulation within the eye's smaller blood vessels. This is a genuinely interesting area of ongoing research, not a proven treatment. We don't yet have the large, long-term human trials needed to say black currants prevent a specific eye disease. What we have is a plausible biological connection and a fruit unusually dense in exactly the compounds researchers are curious about. Wild blueberries carry the biggest general reputation in this category, and mostly for good reason. Wild blueberries specifically, smaller and denser than the cultivated kind, tend to concentrate more anthocyanins per bite. That doesn't make regular blueberries useless. Cultivated blueberries still provide real antioxidant support, fiber, and vitamin C, and if wild ones aren't available or affordable near you, regular blueberries remain a solid choice. The research on anthocyanins and eye health generally points to broad antioxidant protection and some evidence tied to circulation and reduced oxidative stress, rather than one specific mechanism tied to the macula the way an upcoming fruit demonstrates. It's also worth noting that much of this research uses concentrated extracts rather than a normal serving of whole fruit, so the effect of eating a handful at breakfast is reasonably expected to be smaller and slower than what a lab extract shows. Blueberries work best as a consistency habit rather than an occasional large dose, a modest, regular handful worked into meals you already eat. Think about someone who used to enjoy an evening walk after dinner, but has quietly stopped simply because the shift from daylight to dusk leaves her unsteady for those first few minutes outside. Nothing dramatic has happened to her. It's the slow, ordinary kind of change that comes with age. For someone like her, a small daily habit isn't going to restore younger eyes, but it's a reasonable, low-effort way to support what she already has alongside everything else she's doing for her health. Red dragon fruit needs a more careful conversation than most videos give it, because this is where online content tends to stretch things furthest. Its bright pink skin and speckled flesh make it visually dramatic, and a lot of its popularity comes from exactly that, how well it photographs, which is a strange reason to trust a health claim. Much of the content connecting dragon fruit to eye health does so through gut bacteria, the idea being that a healthier gut somehow translates to better eye health. That connection, while an interesting area of broader emerging research, is indirect, early stage, and not something responsible to present as established science for eye protection specifically. The honest reason dragon fruit still belongs on this list is simpler. It offers meaningful vitamin C, solid fiber, and a modest range of antioxidant compounds while being low in calories and easy to digest. Those are legitimate reasons to include it as part of a varied diet that supports overall metabolic and cardiovascular health, which does matter for the eyes indirectly since good blood flow benefits every organ. If you were hoping for a fruit that's secretly a powerhouse for macular health, dragon fruit isn't that fruit, at least not based on what current evidence actually shows. Up to this point, most of what we've covered offers general nutritional support. The next two fruits are different because their connection to specific nutrients involved in eye function is considerably more direct. Goji berries carry a long history in traditional Chinese medicine, but what interests modern nutrition researchers is something more measurable. Goji berries naturally contain zeaxanthin, and they're considered one of the more concentrated whole food sources of it available. Zeaxanthin, alongside lutein, concentrates directly in the macula, the exact part of the eye responsible for reading fine print and recognizing faces. That makes goji berries one of the more directly relevant fruits here, not because they're trendy, but because the nutrient connection is specific rather than general. Small human studies have examined goji berry consumption alongside markers of macular pigment density, and while small studies shouldn't be treated as definitive, this is genuinely one of the more targeted connections in the fruit world for eye health specifically. This next part matters, so please don't skip past it. Goji berries can interact with certain medications, most notably warfarin, a blood thinner many people over 60 take following a heart condition or surgery. Goji berries have been shown to potentially affect NR levels, the blood test used to monitor how well warfarin is working. This is not something to brush off as nothing to worry about. If you take blood thinners or any prescription medication, talk to your doctor or pharmacist before making goji berries a regular habit, the same way you would with any new supplement. It's also worth being clear that food-based goji berries are not a substitute for specialized concentrated formulations, such as REDS2, that an ophthalmologist may have already recommended for a diagnosed eye condition. Don't substitute a handful of dried berries for a treatment plan your doctor has already put you on. Dried goji berries, usually found near dried cranberries and raisins, work well in oatmeal, trail mix, or eaten by the small handful. A tablespoon or two a day is a realistic amount, not a large bowl, and given the medication interaction, more is not automatically better. Ask most people what fruit is good for their eyes, and you'll hear carrots, which isn't technically a fruit, or maybe blueberries again. Almost nobody says papaya. That's exactly what makes it worth waiting for. Papaya provides a meaningful combination of vitamin C, certain carotenoids, and beta-carotene, which your body converts into vitamin A. Vitamin A plays a well-established role in the visual cycle, particularly in low light and night vision, and in maintaining the health of the surface of the eye. Remember that moment I described at the start, walking from bright sunlight into a dimmer room and needing a few seconds for your eyes to catch up? Vitamin A genuinely plays a functional role in that specific process. That said, eating more papaya will not reverse ordinary age-related difficulty seeing at night on its own. And if night driving has become genuinely difficult or unsafe, that's worth discussing with your eye doctor directly rather than treating with diet alone. I want to be careful not to overstate this because this is exactly the point where health content tends to lose credibility, right at the big reveal. Papaya does not protect your eyes from UV damage, and eating it is not a substitute for sunglasses outdoors, especially given how much cumulative UV exposure contributes to cataracts over a lifetime. It doesn't undo UV damage already done. What papaya genuinely offers is a useful, often overlooked nutritional profile, particularly around vitamin A and general antioxidant support, in a fruit that's mild, easy to eat, and simple to add to breakfast or a snack. The surprise isn't that papaya is secretly powerful, it's that something this ordinary has been sitting in the produce aisle the whole time, mostly ignored in conversations exactly like this one. So here's how I'd think about all 7. Not as an equal list, but as a rough framework. Kiwi and black currants are your strongest vitamin C options, useful for general antioxidant support. Watermelon offers a practical hydration boost alongside lycopene. Wild blueberries and dragon fruit are consistency foods, valuable as part of a varied diet more than for any single targeted mechanism. Goji berries and papaya carry the most specific direct connections to nutrients. The eye actually concentrates and uses zeaxanthin and vitamin A respectively, which is why I'd put those 2 near the top of your list if you're only choosing a couple to start with. If you only take 2 things from this video, make it these. Pick 2 fruits from this list, realistic ones, given your budget and what's actually in your grocery store, and include them consistently in ordinary portions over the next month. Not as a clinical experiment that proves anything about your eyesight, but as a habit worth building. A handful of berries, half a papaya, a slice of watermelon. Keep everything your eye doctor has already recommended exactly as it is, your regular exams, any prescribed treatments, all of it. This supports that plan. It doesn't replace it. When people talk with me about their eyesight as they get older, they rarely open with clinical language. Nobody starts with, I'm worried about my macula. What they say is closer to, I'm afraid I won't be able to drive to see my grandchildren anymore. Or I miss reading and I don't want to give it up. Or I want to recognize old friends when I run into them at the store. Underneath nearly every concern about vision at this stage of life is a concern about independence, about continuing the ordinary parts of a good life without needing to ask someone else for help every time. Getting older and noticing changes in your eyesight isn't a personal failure. It's simply part of having lived a long, full life, and it deserves the same calm, practical attention you'd give any other part of your health. A bit more kiwi, a few more berries, a slice of papaya now and then, none of it undoes the years. But it's a reasonable, low-risk way to support your eyes as part of a much bigger picture, one that includes your regular eye exams, protecting your eyes from the sun, managing blood pressure and blood sugar if those apply to you, and simply staying engaged with your own care. If this was useful, I'd appreciate a subscribe, mainly because it helps content like this reach the people it's actually meant for. And before you go, tell me in the comments which of these 7 fruits is already part of your routine and which one genuinely surprised you. I read those comments and they shape what I cover next. Take care of your eyes the way you take care of anything else that truly matters to you, patiently, consistently, without unnecessary fear. They've carried you through a lot of life already, and with a little attention, there's no reason they can't keep carrying you through a lot more.